Coming up next, the Josh Kirby on Sports podcast.
It's the NFL Draft Special here on the Josh Kirby on Sports podcast. CJ and I will be talking everything you need to know NFL Draft, plus a special guest. Catch us on the other side.
Indeed, I'm glad you connected. This is Dave Johnson, voice of the Washington Wizards. You have connected to the right place because you are listening to my man, Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast.
All righty, we have a great episode for you. As always, I am your host, Josh Kirby. Yes, indeed, this is my podcast.
And I'm CJ Mintier. And yes, this is not my podcast, it's yours.
Hey. You're just as much a part of it as I am. But anyways, CJ, how are we doing today? Are you ready to talk draft action?
Yes, my head was hurting these past couple of days just going down the draft board, so I'm ready to talk.
Hey, I feel that, man. So before we get started, I want to thank Dave Johnson for our intro, as always, Mild Swagger, Cosmo, PremiumBeat.com for the music, and Ride 11 Chips for our sponsor today. And as always, the Josh Kirby on Sports podcast is part of the Mayo Police, so make sure you check them out on Twitter and SoundCloud where they post our stuff. So, it's time to talk some draft, but beforehand, we have a very special guest, Coach, Assistant Coach, Sharando High School, and my good friend, Josh Vigna. Josh, say hello to the fans out there.
Josh, thanks for having me on. Excited to be here. Let's talk some draft.
Yeah, I'm excited. But before we talk draft, my condolences. Your Penguins got swept.
Well, hey, at least we aren't the Islanders.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyways, I don't really know much.
He really had to put that in there, didn't he?
He did.
Because he knows I'm a Penguins fan, too. He really had to put that
Hey,
in
no,
there.
CJ, you're
This
not...
is the draft special when he had to squeak that in there, didn't he?
Just for fun. But anyways, I don't know a ton about the draft. I wasn't really sure where to start with this. So our co-host, CJ Mintier, is going to take the lead on this episode about our structure format, pretty much, where we're going to start, what we're going to talk about, all this and all that, because started talking about what we were going to do for the draft, and this is sort of the idea we came up with. It's about a month or two planning for this time, and it all comes down to this, and I totally agreed when CJ wanted to take the lead. So, CJ, let's hear what you want to do first.
So, this Thursday on April 25th, 32 players are going to have their names called. It's going to be one of the best days of their life for these young men, and they're going to remember it for the rest of their lives. And we want to talk about those special 32 picks. But the way that we're going to do this, of course, is we're going to give you our top 5 mock draft. These are the most important players who are going to get drafted, and especially in this year's draft. This draft is going to spark some controversy, especially with even the number 1 overall pick. But we're going to give you our top 5 mock draft, of course, go into detail on which players we believe will go to each team. And then we're going to talk about each team individually, from the NFC North to the AFC South. We're going to go down the list from the Bears all the way down to the Colts. We're going to go into detail on the teams and see which teams need which players and which positions. So that's going to be our format. So we're going to go ahead and start it off with our top 5 mock draft. Josh, who you got going in the top 5 right now on Thursday?
Top 5 for me. It was really tough. It took me a while to figure this out from the last time we did our mini mock draft. So I have the Cardinals number 1 picking Kyler Murray. And the reason for that is I feel like the media is all gung-ho on Kyler Murray, and I think the Cardinals are all gung-ho on him too. And I just think they're going to pick him, I mean, they just picked up Josh Rosen in the draft.
He was the 9th overall pick.
Yeah, and I'm like, why can't you work with him? But I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't really understand. The Cardinals haven't been making too many good decisions, in my opinion. So I just think Kyler Murray is who they're going to go with. And I'll be very surprised if they decide to pick somebody else. Number 2, the 49ers, I have Nick Bosa still. I've seen a lot of great things about him, overcoming that painful injury at Ohio State. And I think the 49ers need somebody on defense. You know, who can go wrong with picking a defensive guy in this draft? You know, there's a lot of big names out on the...
Especially on the defensive line.
Yeah, the
There's
D-line.
big names,
like,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, some of the people I'm going to talk about today, some of the teams, why not pick defense? Because, you know, if you don't need anything that bad on offense, defense is the way to go. You know, you can never go wrong with a good defense because defense wins championships. You know the saying. Number 3, I'm picking Alabama, Quinnen Williams to go number 3 for the Jets. The Jets need a lot of help this year. They've been struggling as of last year, and I feel like defense, they could use some work, some offensive keys. I don't know how Le'Veon's going to do with the Jets, so maybe pick up a backup running back just in case he causes too much drama. The Raiders, I think they're going to go with Drew Lock, the QB from Missouri. I looked at this, and I don't think the Raiders are bought on Derek Carr. I'm not sure why. What's the problem with Derek Carr? But I've been thinking this in my head, and from everything I've been studying, I don't think the Raiders are set in stone with having Derek Carr, and I think they're going to pick up Drew Lock just in case something bad goes wrong. And for number 6, I have the Giants trading up a spot with the Buccaneers for Dwayne Haskins, a quarterback, because, you know, how much does Eli Manning have left in the tank for him? I don't know. They're saying a year, could be 2, but I think Dwayne Haskins is the perfect fit for the New York Giants, and the Giants would trade up because if not, I believe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would go for a quarterback as well because Jameis Winston is not going to get the job done this year.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot on this show about how even in Tampa Bay this past season, the quarterback controversy that they had switching back and forth with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Jameis Winston was benched at one point, and he basically got thrown into the starting job again, and he did not do a good job last year for the Buccaneers. Now with the new head coach, they may be able to get something done because Bruce Arians is a offensive guy, so who knows? But Coach, who do you got in your top 5 right now?
Well, Cardinals are definitely throwing it out there with, who could they take? Who could they not take? You know, do they trade out? Are they sold on Josh Rosen? Or are they not sold on Josh Rosen? I think new regime, fresh faces. I think they're going to take Kyler Murray. Shorter quarterbacks, athletic quarterbacks have been the trend here recently. You know, so I think Kyler Murray is going to go number 1. Number 2, I don't know if you could pass on Quinnen Williams. I mean, look at Aaron Donald. He's been a beast. He's been unstoppable, unblockable. Nick Bosa, has been hurt for a year. You know, do they pick him up coming off that knee injury? So I think Quinnen Williams is going to go number 2. Number 3, does Bosa go there? To the Jets. Do the Jets, maybe add some offensive firepower? I think the Jets do go defense there, and they do take Bosa. Let's see who we at. We're at the Raiders.
Yes.
This could definitely be an interesting decision because they have 3 first-round picks, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
they have 3.
So could they package it?
To the Bears.
Could they?
To the Bears.
Yeah. Could they package it and move back? If they have fallen in love with someone, do they, take someone? There's a lot of options there for Gruden and company. Do they add another offensive weapon? Do they take a quarterback? Is this where Drew Lock comes off the board? I think maybe they go offense. Do they solidify the offensive line? Is this where we see Dillard come off the board from Washington State? Mm-hmm. Or do they get, some help tight end spot with Noah Fant? I don't know, it could be a reach, or the other tight end Hawkinsmith. And then finally, the Bucks. Are they sold on Jameis Winston? Is Bruce Arians the offensive wonder that he is, and can he change Jameis Winston into who he thought that everyone was going to be? But I think they go defense, and I think they could end up taking Ed Oliver. They could also sit there and take Josh Allen, depending upon who they value as their number one slot.
So both of you are saying that the Cardinals are going to stick to the controversy and pick Kyler Murray for the number one spot. Well, screw you both, because I'm not going with that. I seriously think that the Cardinals need all the help that they can get on defense. Steve Wilkes was fired after one season as a part of the Cardinals. And technically, he was supposed to be a defensive mind, because clearly we did not see any offense going on with the Arizona Cardinals whatsoever. And last year, they ranked 20th in the NFL in defense. I think that Nick Bosa is going to pick number one overall. Even though the injury was substantial to him, I still believe that he will be the number one overall pick. He was one of those players who, of course, sat out the rest of the year because he didn't want to get hurt once again. But I think that he is more than qualified. Just take a look at his brother. The guy, he is a very powerful man for Los Angeles, of course. Number two, I completely agree. Quentin Williams, they need somebody to anchor the middle of the defense. Now with the acquisitions of Quan Alexander and also the players like D Ford to have on San Francisco's defense, you got to have someone who can at least take the double teams on the defensive side, on the defensive line. And a great nose guard like Quentin Williams is going to be able to do that. And number three, here's the thing, is that they need to go edge rusher for the New York Jets. And I think that they're going to take Josh Allen. With the loss now of Muhammad Wilkerson and the loss of Sheldon Richardson, of course, these past couple of years, their defensive line has only had Leonard Williams to show for it now. And they need somebody on the outside who is going to be able to pressure them. And now with the acquisition of C.J. Mosley, who's going to be able to anchor down the middle of the defense for them. And they're also still going to have Avery Williamson. They're still going to have Darren Lee. They're still going to have many players on that defense. I feel that Josh Allen is the best edge rusher other than Nick Bosa. I really do, and I think that he will go number 3 overall to the Jets. Number 4, I have to agree with you on backing off if they fall in love with someone. Because when Josh said that they were going to take Drew Lock, I do not see that happening for a quarterback like him. He's had one maybe kind of stellar year at Missouri. He's got a great arm. He was at John Gruden's quarterback camp. You know, they talked with him and everything. But I just do not see that Drew Lock after one season is going to be able to get it done better than Derek Carr can, because when Drew Lock is at his lowest, he's really low. Like, he makes a lot of mistakes when it comes to Missouri. I think there was a play where he threw a screen pass pick 6. How do you mess that up? A screen pass pick 6. And then number 5, I could see the Buccaneers going for Devin White out of LSU. I say a lot of defense because Devin White, now that the Buccaneers lost Quan Alexander in the middle of the defense, they need somebody who is going to be able to anchor the middle of the defense. They still have the old man Gerald McCoy, who is on the defensive line. They still have 2 good cornerbacks in Brent Grimes and whoever the hell is on their secondary over there. But, I'm saying that the defense is going to be huge this season, and I just do not see Kyler Murray going in the first couple of picks. Maybe I would see him go to a team like Washington, but I just don't see it in the top 5. And to Josh's point, he's not the best quarterback in this draft. I believe that Dwayne Haskins is the best prototypical quarterback that you can get in this draft. People see him as a running quarterback. He's not a running quarterback, and he had a lot of great plays at Ohio State. So that's our top 5 now for the mock draft. A lot of good insight, of course. But now we're going to move on to who we feel should go to each of these teams. Now, we're also going to say probably the name for multiple teams. And starting with the NFC North, we're going to go ahead and go into the NFC North. And we're going to go for the Chicago Bears. And the Chicago Bears actually don't even have a first-round draft pick, thanks to trading with Oakland, of course, for Khalil Mack and signing him to a very extensive contract, and it did pay off for Chicago this past year. But obviously, I do feel that with the loss of Jordan Howard, I think that the Bears do need a running back. I really do. And I could see a guy like Miles Sanders out of Penn State can fill that type of role that Jordan Howard left, because he's the type of player just like Jordan Howard.
Do you think he'll fall to the third?
I could see him absolutely going second or third. I don't see him as a first-round talent, honestly, behind like Josh Jacobs out of Alabama, of course.
I think he'll go in the second. I think third round, because that's from what I see here with the Bears. That's number 87 overall. I think he could end up going in the second, even potentially late first if someone ends up trading back in and they're falling in love with him. But Miles Sanders, that's a very good possibility.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Penn State. Haven't seen a lot of him on TV, but I heard he's
had tough shoes to fill behind Saquon.
Yeah,
I could tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, with Saquon in the spotlight for Penn State, you don't really see a lot of him, but the Bears definitely do need a running back. And why they got rid of Jordan Howard, I really don't know, but
you've heard my frustration with it. For a
Yeah.
6th-round draft pick, they got rid of Jordan Howard.
A 6th-round draft pick. What can they pick up with that?
Well, probably a Tom Brady, but probably not. But anyway, another one, of course, for the Bears has to be a defensive back now. Clinton Dix, of course, is coming to the Bears, but he's only there on a 1-year deal now.
He didn't do that much for the Redskins. I don't see him doing that much.
Go figure with your Redskins. Don't do much there anyway. But, I feel that for the safeties in this draft, there isn't really that much competition. The highest rated safety as of right now is an FCS guy out of Delaware.
Kid can play.
I'm sure he can, because JMU played him this year. Hell yeah, the kid could play. He really can. But I'm saying that I don't know if they would draft him in the 2nd round if they had the chance to be a starting safety. I really feel like they would need somebody who could be more of a Bryce Callahan, a guy who could play in the slot as well, because they lost him to Denver this past offseason.
Do they go corner? Do they go, like a guy like Travion Mullen from Clemson? Do they go, Sean Bunting from Central Michigan? It'll be interesting to see where do they go. Do they feel like the guys are tweener guys? Can he play safety? Can he play corner?
Mm-hmm.
Can he play that nickel slot back? Can they bump someone outside? So it'll be interesting to see what the Bears get into.
Yeah, very interesting with the stuff that's going on. But Clint Dix on a 1-year deal, as you said. I don't know how much he can put on the table, so it's better safe they pick up somebody just in case, because the Redskins traded for him, and you know how that ended up. But yeah, that could be just the Redskins. But yeah.
So let's go ahead and move on to the Lions then. And this is a weird team here, because they are going to have the 8th overall pick, and right now they are in need of a tight end, in my opinion. With the loss of Eric Ebron last year, and when he went to Indianapolis, he was very significant for Indianapolis. And I feel that this is where we're finally going to get a tight end like Noah Fant or TJ Hawkinson, who's going to be a big target for Matthew Stafford.
Both from Iowa.
Yeah, both were teammates at Iowa. Matthew Stafford seems to have an act for big receivers or big tight ends, because, of course, he just threw up the ball to Megatron and he came down with it. And I honestly could see Noah Fant going here in the top 10 over TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, that's good, but like you said, the big guys, I feel like it could be one of these maybe lower guys in the draft, because of some of them, how big, how versatile they are. Sometimes they get overlooked in the 1st round. So I looking here, I'm thinking maybe a guy like Caden Smith from Stanford. I looked up some of his stats. He looked pretty good. There's bigger guys, because Matt Stafford has had success with Eric Ebron, but now that he's gone, I feel like the Lions need to pick somebody up for that position to play nicely. But I do agree. I feel like they'd be a good fit with TJ or Noah Fant from Iowa. But I wouldn't be surprised if they waited, or somebody who, not really a big name could fill those shoes for the Lions as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do they go defensive line?
That was my second choice.
I agree with your offensive weapons, but Matt Patricia,
he is a defensive guy.
Yeah. Do they go running back? Like
they
do have Kerryon Johnson, but he's effective.
He's not going to be an every down back.
So is this a reach for the first running back? Do they trade back, try to acquire picks in the mid? A mid first round pick to pick up a second or a third. I think the Lions are in an interesting spot. Have they fallen in love with someone that they're going to take them at 8? Do they fall back and think they can get them a little bit later? If I were to say that they were to take something at 8, I think they do go defense. Do they? Is Josh Allen still on the board? Is Devin White on the board? Is Montez Sweat? It's an interesting prospect there. Guy's a freak.
Yeah, he is. He fits your 4-3 type of defense.
So it'll be interesting to see what actually the Lions do with this pick. I think they're kind of a wild card team, where teams could jump up there and make them an offer.
Yeah, the Lions are in a very weird predicament because, as we said many times on this show, a lot of their cap space is gone thanks to Matthew Stafford. The contract that they signed to him, $23 million a year, that's a lot of your cap space gone every single year. But moving on to the Packers, of course, in the NFC North, the Packers, this is a tricky one here because not only do the Packers have Jimmy Graham, I feel like the Packers need to get rid of Jimmy Graham and find somebody else who's going to be there with Aaron Rodgers for the long haul. But personally, forget the offense. They need help on the defensive side of the ball.
Linebacker.
They need help on the linebacker side of the ball.
Clay Matthews is gone. And I could see the Packers trading up, could possibly pick up a Mac Wilson or a Devin White.
I had Mac Wilson on there as well. He fits that 3-4 type of defense for Alabama.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Green Bay traded up, but it just wasn't in my mock draft. But I would not be surprised at all if the Packers traded up. And I really do like Mac Wilson for the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
They do have 2 first-round picks. Am I seeing that right? Right.
So they have one.
They have the 12th, right?
Yes, and they have the 30th.
So
yes.
Do they package them too, and move up if they want to get those elite pass rushers, those elite, 3 guys? That could be an interesting move with the new regime coming in there. Mike McCarthy's gone. It'll be interesting to see what they do.
That's the only question that I have for the Packers. Is Matt LaFleur going to change the offense, or is he going to change the team? Because right now, their defense is nowhere near as good as what it used to be with when Clay Matthews got even switched into inside linebacker. And then you had, of course, A.J. Hawk back then. You had guys like Sam Shields. You had great talent on the outside. I don't know if Matt LaFleur – the Packers are in a weird situation because now with the article out with Aaron Rodgers, I really think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a say what comes up in this draft now. I really could see that happening. And then finally, the Vikings out of –
running back.
You really think that they need to have another running back?
Yep.
Even after having Dalvin Cook?
Yeah, I really don't like the Vikings' run game has been so inconsistent the past couple of years, in my opinion. I really do think that I'm not thinking they're gonna trade up, but I like Miles Sanders as well for Minnesota. Justice Hill, Oklahoma State. I found him as another guy who might fit. And I don't think Josh Jacobs or Damon Harris at all. I think some of the mid-round guys for Minnesota at the running back position and offensive line.
Yes.
Yeah, because Kirk Cousins has been getting drilled all season. There's been no protection on the line. And they got to fix it now if they want to become a better team. And I think I feel like the Vikings could trade up if they wanted O-line because they desperately need O-line. I could see a Jonah Williams, a Cody Ford.
I could also see the kid out of Kansas State, Risner.
Dalton Risner.
Because they need interior and they also need offensive tackles.
Yeah, I mean, all great players, but the Minnesota Vikings need to find offensive line to protect Kirk Cousins this season.
Yeah, Jonah Williams is an interesting prospect. I think he can play just about every position, on the offensive line.
Yeah.
So, that could be interesting with what even, again, Zimmer, defensive guy, does he go defense? Those defensive guys love their defensive, weapons. But I still think you have a franchise quarterback that you signed a big contract to.
Unfortunately, yep.
You got to protect him.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see which of those offensive linemen are still there in that mid first round area. Has the number one offensive tackle still there? Is it a guy like Jonah Williams who can play just about any position on that offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, that whole Alabama offensive line, a couple of those guys are, of course, going into the draft. They have a couple of players on that offensive line who could play almost any position on the offensive line. I think his name was Pierce Schubacher, who's another one that was with Jonah Williams as well. He's another guy. But all right, so that is the NFC North. We're going to go ahead and, because I know Josh is going to have a heart attack if we don't talk about his Redskins, we're going to go ahead and move on to the NFC East here. And we're going to talk about your Redskins first.
All right, yeah, if I can find the paperwork here, because I thought we were going in alphabetical order. Now my paperwork's all messed up, but quarterback. Got to find somebody back up to Case Keenum. I like Case Keenum for the Redskins, yes, but, that could go south really fast because, it is the Redskins. The wide receiver position, a thing that I would really love to see DK Metcalf for the Redskins. DK Metcalf, hands down. For quarterback, I want to see Will Greer from West Virginia get picked up. I really do like him. And the Redskins could use safety help, cornerback help, O-line help because protection was non-existent last season, pressuring Alex Smith.
Wonder why Alex Smith broke his leg.
Yeah. Edge, definitely need an edge. Somebody. Too many players to name. But
so were you saying, Josh, they need a whole new team?
Pretty much.
Is this what it sounds like?
Pretty much.
Yeah. We're going to need a left tackle, a left guard, a center. For me, I think you need to go wide receiver first draft.
Yeah, no, wide receiver hands down because I feel like Will Greer isn't going to be a hot target in this draft.
Yes.
So wide receiver hands down. I would love to see the Redskins trade up and get DK Metcalf.
And I picked him as well for you guys.
Because who do we have? We traded Crowder. And all we have is Josh Doxson.
And
Doxson who are the other ones? I mean, I don't even know their names.
Capri Bibbs.
Yeah, Capri Bibbs.
Bibbs. Yeah,
he's a running back.
Sorry, excuse me,
man.
But I'm sorry.
But
I don't know your players.
Yeah, I mean, the Redskins just funnel around players. Mo Harris got traded to sign with New England, so that's another wide receiver they can use this year. So I don't know who we have besides Josh Doxson. I don't even remember
at all. He's had an Achilles injury for 2 years, and then he had to play this past year, and he did not produce at all for your offense.
Yeah, and with Preston Smith gone, they need somebody to replace him. They definitely do.
Yes, but like I said, you need to fix your offense because you lost your technical franchise quarterback in Alex Smith. You need to find somebody who's going to be a deep threat. And I think, here's the thing about Metcalf, though, is that he is a top prospect, But he was injured a lot this past season for Ole Miss. He only caught the ball 26 times this past season. He doesn't have a lot of high stat lines. People, I feel, are looking at this guy and going, he's the real deal because they saw the picture of him at the gym. If you look at his film, he has a lot of downside to him. He really does because he's playing in a tougher division in the SEC. But I do think that he is a top pick. I really do. But I have another guy who's above him in my draft stock from Iowa State, Hakeem Butler. I feel he's a better wide receiver than him, but I honestly would go with DK Metcalf. I really would.
Yeah, the Redskins need a lot of help everywhere, and you
said a new team, just a completely new team you need.
Yeah, I guess so. We can go with that.
So we're gonna go over to the rival, the Cowboys.
Oh yeah.
And
This is who I want to talk about if I can find my notes.
so, first of all, I want to say that the Cowboys, with the loss of Randy Gregory, with the loss of Irving now,
They need defensive
line.
guys who want to play football.
and not smoke weed.
David
Because both of them
Irving
smoke weed.
on Instagram Live smoking weed and
Saying, "I quit the
Randy
NFL."
Gregory suspended more games than he's played his entire career. So
Well, the issue for the Cowboys is where's their first round pick, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's pretty low right now on the
If I'm not
totem pole.
mistaken, they don't have a first round pick, right?
Unfortunately, they do not.
So
You're going to lose a lot of top talent there at the defensive line.
So
oh, big money Jerry's
So-
gonna trade up.
well, I mean, they've got it looks like 2 fourths, a third, a second, a fifth, and a seventh.
Man.
So they've got 2, 4, 6 picks in this draft. I think they stay put. I think this is the one time where Jerry Jones is not going to make any noise. I think with 6 picks, you need help on the defensive line, defensive, backfield. I think we're not going to hear a lot from the Cowboys. This might be the first year in a long time where they stay quiet and they just, grab who falls in their lap. It's a second round. It's number 58 overall. Who depends who could be there. Could a local guy, Juan Thornhill from Virginia, be there?
Mm-hmm.
Could Taylor Rapp from Washington?
I had him on my draft for them as well. Yep.
The kid from Delaware. It'll be interesting to see who's there in that second round, mid second round area.
The thing for me, though, is that I really think that Dallas needs to invest in a tight end because Jason Witten,
You read my mind here.
he is coming back from retirement on a 1-year deal, and who knows if he will say, I wanted to come back, but I'm just not feeling it anymore. And they did not have a significant tight end this past year.
Dude, you read my mind.
They had players like Ezekiel Elliott. They had Amari Cooper, who was in a trade. And they had guys who basically could get the job done. But I do not remember a significant tight end who was there for the Cowboys. And they need to invest in one. But I do not see guys like Hawkinson or Fant to be on the board that late into the game. And I see guys like from Texas A&M, Jay Sternberger. I see guys who will fall down the totem pole, but they need to invest in somebody. But they need some defensive linemen. They really do, because I had Dexter Lawrence on my list for him to go there.
You think late second for him?
I honestly would, because of the incident that happened with the national championship and also the semifinal game where he was sitting out because of the suspension for an illegal drug, I think it was. So, because I see his counterpart, Clelin Ferrell and Christian Wilkins, going high second or even first round, because those two were dominant together. And I could see Dexter slipping to the second and then picking Dexter Lawrence up.
Definitely a steal. Definitely a steal in that mid to late second range.
And here's a crazy trade that I would think is that I think that in the back of my mind, I feel like Jerry Jones would want to get Ed Oliver. I really do, because he went to Houston, and he is technically the second best defensive tackle in the draft. And they would want to get a great guy like him on their team. I could see them possibly trading away their whole franchise just to get this guy. It's in the back of my mind somehow, but it's in the very back of my mind that they could do that. But I have Dexter Lawrence as their number 2 pick for defensive line.
I just hope Dallas doesn't get better because Washington plays them like week 2 to start.
You guys play
off
Philly week 1 as well.
Oh, yeah.
You got divisional games.
But we'll be talking about the schedule next week. Don't worry.
So let's go into the Eagles then. And the Eagles, now the Eagles are in a predicament where they've lost some very interesting defensive players, especially at the middle linebacker position. Jordan Hicks is gone. But now, of course, you run into a scenario where you're going to have Rodney McLeod probably leaving next year. You're also going to have Malcolm Jenkins, and who knows how long he has left on their defense. And you also lost Michael Bennett and maybe even Chris Long. So you're losing a lot of players on your defensive side of the ball who just 2 years ago had one of the best defenses in the NFL on their way to a Super Bowl championship.
I do like Lamar as a linebacker they can pick up because, as you said, all the defensive guys leaving, they're going to need help. And I feel like the 6'3", 253-pound out of Clemson, I think he can help the defense out for Philly a lot.
I actually have Farrell for them going as their defensive end from Clemson for the Eagles. I have them picking him up because he's a good edge rusher who was dominant at Clemson because he had great counterparts next to him who were able to give him a chance to get to the quarterback. And then I also have Greg Little out of Ole Miss, who is an offensive tackle, because Jason Peters, he probably has another year or two left, maybe, and they need to finally find someone who can actually take his spot because Jason Peters, he's a great player, but he does not have much longer, even though they did re-sign him.
Next on the list, unless...
You have anything to add, Coach?
No,
Okay.
We're good. We're good with the Eagles.
So we have the Giants next, the last team in the NFC East.
Dwayne Haskins. They need a quarterback to replace Eli Manning in the near future.
I don't know if I'm sold on Haskins. Yes, he had a great 1 year, Is he a 1 year wonder? Does he need to, be polished a little bit more? He had weapons around him. Who are the weapons besides Saquon
And
Sterling Shepard do the Giants have? That's my question. I mean, how long is Eli going to be around? This quarterback class is not the best. Do they, stick around for, wait to draft that quarterback next year? So I don't know. Haskins, I don't know if I'm sold on him.
Well, I'm sold on him, but I seriously think that he is not the issue with the Giants. The issue is their offensive line. Eli Manning has been under pressure for a very long time.
Seems like forever.
Yes, for a very long time. And they have one of the worst offensive lines. They drafted Eric Flowers a couple years ago as their number 1 overall pick as an offensive tackle. 3 years later, he's in Jacksonville on a trade because he was that bad. And he's still struggling in Jacksonville. Their offensive line is one of the worst in the NFL, if not the worst. And obviously, I have to pick the number 1 offensive lineman in the draft, Jawan Taylor out of Florida. They need an offensive tackle who can replace Flowers, even though he just needed to be replaced regardless. They need some offensive linemen to take over. They really do. Because Eli Manning is not that awful in a sense that he's just making bad decisions. He doesn't have any time to throw.
Yeah, that is true. But Eli is good. He won 2 Super Bowls to prove it. But he's on the decline of his career. So I feel like the Giants should also prepare for their future by picking up Dwayne Haskins. Vigna said he's not bought on it. That could be the case. And I do definitely agree that they need to pick up some O-line help to protect whoever is under center for the New York Giants this upcoming season.
Yeah, I agree. They need help on the offensive line. And people are too blind to the fact that, we need a new quarterback. Well, your offensive line has been bad for a couple of years now.
I think the loss of Landon Collins is going to be a big detriment to their defense. Kid can play ball. He coming out of Alabama. He was an all-pro there for just about every year he's been in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think even that safety spot is definitely a glaring weakness for them. You know, the NFC East got some quarterbacks that can throw the rock. So you know, we'll see what happens with the Giants with those, you know, 2 first-round picks. You know, they could also, like, you know, Josh said.
I don't trust Gettleman, though. I really don't. Because he's come out and said, we're not picking a quarterback. Why? You're going to trust Eli to be in a wheelchair and throw the ball, basically? Because that's all you're going to have then if you don't trust any other quarterbacks besides him. Because Lauletta, the kid out of Richmond, you drafted him in the 3rd round 2 years ago.
And he got arrested.
And he got arrested. And so there's your trust lost in him. So who are you going to trust now? You got to find somebody.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
2 first-round picks. We'll see what they do.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to the NFC West now. And let's go ahead with the number 1 overall pick, the Cardinals.
The Cardinals, yeah.
Just by looking at the team needs, inside defensive line, edge, interior offensive line, wide receiver, cornerback, linebacker, offensive tackle, tight end. And under this, it says don't need quarterback. They don't need a quarterback, and yet you guys still feel that Kyler Murray is the guy for them. You guys still feel that Kyler Murray is the guy. I feel that Nick Bosa is the guy for them. They need somebody that is young and that can at least spark something in the defensive pressure of that line. They have some veterans coming in Terrell Suggs. They have Chandler Jones who's there.
But how do we know if Terrell Suggs is going to be as good as he was in Baltimore, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Veteran presence, yes, that is always a plus, but you never know when they're on the decline of their career. So I could agree with you with Nick Bosa. But I still feel like Kyler Murray's the answer.
The only reason why I'm mentioning Terrell Suggs is because he is a former Defensive Player of the Year. He is a guy who was a nightmare off the edge. If there is a guy who can teach an edge pressure guy like Nick Bosa, it could possibly be Terrell Suggs and teach him his ways of being a terror in the night. And that's why I feel Nick Bosa is a great pick for them. They also need some help at wide receiver. The Cardinals' wide receivers last year is Larry Fitzgerald, and yeah, that's it. And yet he's almost 40 years old now. They need some help with the wide receiver position, and I think the other kid from Ole Miss, A.J. Brown, could be another pick for them as well later in the draft, of course, because they have the number 1 overall pick, and then they don't get another pick until the 2nd round.
Yeah. My thing on the Cardinals, they need a lot of help.
It's not just but Cliff Kingsbury is out in the media saying they need cell phone breaks. Well, they need to fix their team in general.
If that's the case, Cliff Kingsbury is going to have a very short tenure at Arizona, I guarantee it.
Well, he had a losing record at Texas Tech and still got the job. So
Thinking the same thing there. Losing record. How do you hire a guy with a losing record? He's no like Dabo Sweeney.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think Dabo would have ever left Clemson, but
I don't
still,
think
like,
so. But still, it's, you know, you're at Texas Tech. Now I could see if you're making, like, you know, the college football playoff at Texas Tech, then you could be a little, you know, kind of allured to the job. But I mean, it's interesting.
I think one of the reasons why the Cardinals went with him is because of the way that he kind of transformed Patrick Mahomes and the way that he can relate to a younger quarterback and like that type of player that is Kyler Murray, because Kyler Murray has a cannon. Okay, he has an arm on him. And so I feel like that's one of the reasons why, but still, yeah, a losing record at Texas Tech. That's all I have to say. Next, we have the 49ers. We'll go with the number 2 overall pick. I'm still sticking with Quentin Williams. They need somebody who can anchor the middle of the defensive line. They're getting a lot of pickup veteran presence on the defense. Like I said, D Ford in a signing. Of course, he was with Kansas City last year. And then also Quan Alexander, who was in the middle of the Buccaneers defense.
Well, I could see Nick Bosa or Quentin Williams. I agree with you. I wouldn't be surprised if they pick up Quentin Williams, but they need help defensively, and they can't hurt.
They have the right quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo is the right quarterback for them. I really do. Because he only served underneath the GOAT. I really feel that he is the right quarterback for them. The only other pick that I would see them going after is a wide receiver, of course, just to get some extra firepower on the offensive side of the ball. But other than that, you need to go defense right now for the 49ers.
You can't pass on a man that's 300 pounds and runs a sub-5.
Yeah.
4.9.
As a nose guard, yeah.
You can't pass on that.
especially at the number 2 pick.
You can find receivers deep in the draft.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally, the Rams out of the NFC West, the defending NFC champions.
What do they really need?
Well, they need defense. Well, that's one thing that they do need. is that-
Defense?
yes, in terms of they lost a couple of players to free agency. Aqib Talib is not coming back, and Ndamukong Suh is not coming back, and of course Mark Barron is not coming back. So they need another veteran linebacker presence.
Yeah, I could see linebacker, with those guys leaving, but with Clay Matthews and Fowler on the
Yes.
Rams now.
Exactly.
They're going to be tough in the defense, but bolster that defense with a linebacker. Bolster it with another linebacker. Why not? They can only get better.
The only thing I'll say, though, is that since they're the number 31 overall pick, there's going to be a lot of linebackers off the board already that late into the draft. So it's hard to tell who is going to be left for them, but I could see one of the kids out of NC State going to them. Because if they do, I could see 3 linebackers or 4 linebackers being taken off the board. I'm assuming Josh is paying attention to the Caps game right now as we're recording this, but the Rams need to bolster their defense. They're fantastic on offense. They don't need to worry about the offensive side of the ball. So, finally, the last division in the NFC, we have the NFC South. And we'll go ahead and talk about the Buccaneers because Josh believes that the Buccaneers will trade up to get Dwayne Haskins.
I said the Giants.
Oh, wait, excuse me. Yes.
But if they don't, the Buccaneers are going to pick up a quarterback because I don't think Jameis will be the answer. And with Bruce Arians as the head coach, I don't think he's going to put up with Jameis's bullcrap anymore.
I can completely agree with that. He's one of those old school coaches.
Yeah, Bruce Arians is a great head coach, and he decided to come out of a broadcast booth. I don't really know why, but he wants to coach. And yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see. But if they pick up a quarterback, I don't see Jameis there for much longer.
No, I don't either, but I still think that Devin White out of LSU will be the pick for the Buccaneers. He was the best linebacker in the draft. You saw him at the Combine. He was very emotional after running the 40-yard dash. I still think that they need somebody now who can hold down the middle of the defense now that Quan is gone. So I feel that they need to go defense here for their first pick. And then we have the Carolina Panthers right now.
Oh, where did they go?
So the Carolina Panthers are going to have...
Quarterback.
You really think that they... What? You really
Yeah.
think they need a quarterback?
You didn't hear it? Cam Newton's injury. I don't know if you remember, but he could be sidelined for some of this season, if I'm correct. That was a while ago. I'm not sure if his injury has changed. But, if Cam Newton can't play, who's his backup?
Then who do you think should be in his position then?
Well,
if they try and draft a quarterback?
I'm not saying a quarterback long term. I'm just saying they might want to pick one up just in case, since Cam Newton is probably...
You don't take a first-round pick on that.
I
I'm
wouldn't
not
take a first
saying...
round.
Maybe
I said
late.
a quarterback, not a first-round quarterback.
Well, it sounded like...
No, I mean...
Well, I can see, late-round picks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were talking about just
But-
first round.
well-
No, I'm just talking about in general. What is their biggest necessity? And you really think it's a quarterback?
No. I just said that because I feel. Well, I heard about Cam Newton's injury. If he plays this year, then probably not. But I think a late round quarterback would be good, like 3rd, 4th, 5th round, maybe 6th. But I think edge, wide receiver.
Honestly, I think it has to be defensive line.
Yeah, D-line also.
Their defensive pressure last year was not very good because Starlu Talele and Kawan Short can't do it all in the middle of the line. You have Luke Kuechly, who in my opinion is the best middle linebacker in the league, and you have to have somebody who could give some pressure up front. And I feel like a guy like Brian Burns or even Montez Sweat, who can drop that far onto the draft board because they're picking 16th. I absolutely could see him dropping that far and then picking up that type of player for their defensive line. I really could. And I feel like they need to go defensive line here. And then, of course, we have the Saints next. And
What do the Saints need? Let's see
well,
here.
honestly, like it feels like they're sticking with Teddy Bridgewater, of course, as their quarterback. It feels like they're going to stick with him, of course. So, but the Saints do not have a first-round draft pick. They do not. But as of right now, I think they need a tight end. Benjamin Watson is gone. Well, he's considering coming back, but I feel like they need to go for a tight end later in the draft to at least give Drew Brees another target at the tight end position, because Watson was good for his time with Drew Brees, I feel. And I feel like they need to go with him. You said Caden Smith from Stanford. I'm thinking as a kid from Alabama. I'm thinking also LSU guy. There's a couple. There's a bunch of prospects who could fall low into the second round. The only two guys who I feel could go in the first round are Hawkinson and Fant. I feel like those are the only two who will go in the top 32. So I feel like the Saints need to go tight end. And they also need to go cornerback. Eli Apple he's not the best. He was not the best after being traded from the Giants. Marshawn Lattimore is a great cornerback, but Eli Apple on the other side is kind of a liability to me.
Yeah, it'd be cool if the Saints picked up a quarterback named Rock Yassin from Temple.
Oh, yeah. You saw that? Yeah. It's almost as bad as Clinton Dix. It's
I
almost
think
as bad as that
Rock
type of name.
Yassin is worse than Clinton Dix, but Rock Yassin.
And then finally, or did you have something to add in?
Hunter Renfrow, late.
Oh, no.
Another weapon.
Is he actually going to go into the draft?
Mr. Possession. You know, Drew Brees loves possession.
Oh, I know
receivers.
about Hunter Renfrow.
Oh, yeah.
And he's only
He did
got...
great things
Sean-
in that national championship
He only has
game.
2 national championship rings. He's been to 3 of them.
Sean Payton will find a way to
I-
use him.
I could see him slipping to the 3rd or 4th. But
Well, I'm just saying,
yeah.
you know, because the Saints don't have a lot of picks. I think they're going to be smart. Hunter Renfrow.
I like your logic there, and I think Sean Payton, if he wants a player, he'll find a way to get him.
I agree,
Possession player. I mean, I watched that national championship. He played a heck of a game.
He's been a heck of a player for
Yeah.
Clemson the past couple of years.
Amen, brother.
And then, okay. And then finally, we have the Falcons. And honestly, they need to go defense. It's been very prevalent that their defense has been their weak point for a while now. I'm sorry for not going in order, Josh. I know your papers are all over the place, but
Just bear with me.
I feel that the Falcons, ever since their Super Bowl loss to the Patriots, it has been very prevalent that their defense has been the issue, and they need to go cornerback. They need to draft somebody high in the draft. They're going to have the number 14 overall pick. I think they need to go cornerback in the first round. They need to get somebody who is at least going to contest the ball, because, as I said, we saw what happened in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. The defense was completely tired. The offense scored way too fast. So I could see a guy like Greedy Williams out of LSU coming off the board, or Byron Murphy out of Washington.
Or they can pick a cool name, Rock Yassin.
He is technically he's the number 4. So yeah, but they need to get defensive players for the Atlanta Falcons.
Hey,
Now-
it doesn't hurt to get defense. Defense wins championships.
Yeah, okay. And so that is the NFC. So we're going to go ahead and go into the AFC North. Only 4 more divisions left. We're going to start
no.
off with what?
Oh, no, only 4 left.
I'm just saying.
I'm having fun.
It's is that sarcasm?
No, I'm having
Oh,
fun.
okay. You gave me a little snarky look. I was just wondering.
Sorry, I'm tired.
The AFC North, let's go ahead and start off with the Bungles. So Cincinnati has the number 11 pick in the NFL draft. And Tyler Eifert has been very injury prone these past couple of seasons. And he has been a threat, though, when he's on the field with Andy Dalton. But they need to find somebody who is at least going to be a very reliable tight end and not get injured every single game, for that matter. And so I think they need to go tight end in this first round, or at least have somebody fill the hole of Vontaze Burfict. Even though he is a bit of a rough guy, he was a good football player as a middle linebacker for the Bengals. So they need to find somebody, in my opinion, at the tight end position or as a linebacker for their defense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more because you don't know what Vontaze Burfict is going to do next. And I don't know, maybe he could get kicked out of the NFL for life. But
Well, he's with the Raiders now.
He's gone from the Bengals.
oh, yeah,
Oh.
that's right.
Ah.
Been a long day.
I wouldn't be surprised if they go quarterback. It'll be interesting to see if the new coach is sold on, Andy Dalton. But I'm not saying in the first round. I mean, they could fall in love with someone.
Yeah, I put that down too.
But I wouldn't be surprised if they draft some sort of quarterback. Don't be shocked.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised for a guy like Trace McSorley to be. Look, I have been a huge fan of Trace McSorley.
I hope Trace gets drafted this draft because local guy out of Loudoun County. I'm telling you, he can do great things. He's small.
a winner.
He's small, but on the right team, he will play well. He's small, but he has muscle, and he.
That's a good thing, right, Josh?
Yeah, but
We get the point.
yeah, but he's small, but I think he can get the job done. I think he can be versatile as a running quarterback and throwing quarterback
Yeah,
in the right system.
I also could see them picking up Ryan Finley from NC State. He's another one because he's just like Andy Dalton in my mind. He honestly, though, from looking at his film, he doesn't have the best attributes, but I could see a guy like him or even Tyree Jackson out of Buffalo. There's a whole bunch of quarterbacks who deserve to have teams in this upcoming draft. So now we're going to go to the most exciting offensive off-season team, the Cleveland Browns. And the Cleveland Browns do not have a first-round pick because you don't get first-round picks with the amount of players that they have picked up, including Odell Beckham Jr. But they need defensive players. Their offense is set in stone. They need defensive players now. And I honestly think now with the loss of Jamie Collins, he is not coming back. They need to put another linebacker on the board. Their defensive line, to me, has been now solidified. They got Olivier Vernon, Myles Garrett, Sheldon Richardson on that defensive line. These are three guys who can very well anchor a defensive line. They need to go linebacker to me because Joe Sherbert ain't getting it done at the middle linebacker position. Sherbert,
You said that's so funny. I'm
sorry. But now that Jabril Peppers is gone at the safety position, since he was traded to New York for, of course, Odell Beckham Jr., they need to find somebody. And that is where I feel even the Delaware kid might end up at Cleveland. I could see him.
Rock Y'all Sin might end up there as well.
He took the words right out of my mouth.
You really have him going for Cleveland?
No, I just like the name.
Oh, okay. But they need defense.
Yeah, I mean, they've worked on the offense enough. Mm-hmm. We can't make
Freddie
assumptions.
Kitchens is an offensive guy. We've established that.
Yeah, but they need to work on defense now because, as I said before.
Defense wins championships.
Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah. They don't need a quarterback. They don't need a running back. They don't need offensive weapons. They need defensive playmakers now. Because Denzel Ward is a shining example of a good defensive playmaker for them as their cornerback. Now let's go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. People want to say that we need another wide receiver now. And honestly, I don't see it. I really don't. Juju Smith-Schuster is a special talent for us. Our tight ends are also set with Vance McDonald and Xavier Grimble still in his last year of his contract. And honestly, I feel like we need help consistently at the linebacker position because with the loss of Ryan Shazier, I can't tell you how much of a difference maker he was for the Steelers defense. With him and Vince Williams together, you have a connection with linebackers with those two, and they had a special connection. Even though Mark Barron got picked up by the Steelers, I still feel like they need to draft somebody, and I feel like Devin Bush out of Michigan could be the guy just exactly for that, for Pittsburgh.
Steelers are definitely in an interesting predicament.
Yeah.
Do they go offense? Do they shore up the defense? Do they go corner? Is this the year where they say, Artie Burns, this was a bust. We're sorry about taking that pick. You know, it'll be interesting to see what Colbert and Tomlin do. Do they go offense? Do they go defense? I still think they go defense. I hope they go defense. Being a Steelers fan,
Yep, same here.
I do hope they either solidify the middle linebacker spot. I'm not sold on Mark Barron. I think he's just a 1-year replacement. I think they do need to either take the kid out of LSU or the kid out of Michigan there. But I wouldn't be shocked if they do go defensive back help.
Yeah, the thing for me is that I have been a Steelers fan to know that cornerbacks in the NFL draft for the past couple of years do not work with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Senquez Golson was a first-round draft pick for us. He's a bust.
He's a second round.
He was a second round, excuse me, but still.
He never played down in the NFL.
Exactly.
That's the thing. He never played down in the NFL. And Mike Tomlin is supposed to be a defensive back guru.
Mm-hmm.
But he is not, pulled the trigger right on any of these defensive backs.
Because I feel like we have some good players at the safety position. I feel like Sean Davis just needs to get a little bit better. He just needs to get a little bit better and stop screwing us, because there were so many plays this past season where it looked like he intentionally hit our guys and plays ended up making for the other team. Against Los Angeles, I don't know if you remember, he basically trucked one of our guys and the ball ended up in Keenan Allen's hands. So that's what, but anyway, they need to go defense, no question for me. And then finally we have the Ravens for Baltimore. And I feel like they need to go wide receiver now. The thing for me is that, yes, they need to go wide receiver and linebacker. With the loss of C.J. Mosley and Terrell Suggs, they need somebody now to at least help them.
Linebacker. And if I look here on the linebacker spots, another thing, I mean, I don't think it would happen, but Mack Wilson or Devin White, perfect fit for Baltimore in my opinion, but probably won't happen because the Ravens are pretty low in the draft.
22nd in their pick for the
22nd.
first round.
But looking at these other ones, I wouldn't be surprised if 6'0", 230 TJ Edwards from Wisconsin sounds like a good fit. I've done some research on that, and but the Ravens definitely do need defense with those two losses. And I mean, and look at the offense too, just in case, because you don't know how Lamar is going to pan out. I'm not saying get another quarterback, but I'm just saying just in case. You never know. In RG3 as the backup, I mean, uneasy there. I'm uneasy there at the quarterback position. So I wouldn't be against the Ravens picking up a third quarterback out of the draft, just so they teach him some, and just in case Lamar gets booted and RG3 tears his ACL or something. I don't know, but
again,
yeah, but I mean, I'm sort of uneasy at the quarterback position. I'm not sure about you two, but
oh no, I am very uneasy with Lamar Jackson.
So yeah, a quarterback, not top first round or something like that, but just go shopping.
Yeah, I completely agree. So that's the AFC North gone. Now we're going to go to the worst division in the AFC, which is the AFC East, starting with the Bills, of course. And right now, the Bills have the number 9 pick. Yes, the number 9 pick. And they honestly need, for me, they need defensive linemen as well for their team, because Josh Allen, no offense to me, I thought Josh Allen was actually kind of decent this past year for Buffalo. That just may be me. That may just be me. But I feel that this is where a guy like Christian Wilkins will go from Clemson. Absolutely. I feel like he is the perfect fit for this type of defense, who is a very aggressive defense. You have guys like, and probably his former teammate, Shaq Lawson, there at Clemson as well, is also in Buffalo. I feel like that would be a perfect fit for Christian Wilkins to go to Buffalo. And also, it's a very aggressive defense. So I could see them going defense as well for Buffalo. A lot of defensive guys here for
Yeah, you can never
the
get
draft.
wrong with defense. I can't say that enough, but that's just my opinion.
Now, for Miami.
Oh, I have a big bombshell in Miami.
Miami, I'm going to say it, quarterback. I really think they need a quarterback.
You know who? You know who I'm picking?
Hold on. I want to name this right. I'm going to say Jones from Duke. Nope. Then who?
I think they find their way to Tua Tagovailoa.
He's not in the draft.
He's not?
Tua Tagovailoa is not in the
He's
draft.
next year, bud.
Yeah, he's not in the draft this year.
He's not.
He is not in the draft this year. We were going so well. And then
Josh, let's check your notes here.
Okay, I thought he was
no.
entering.
No.
Maybe this is your Will Greer spot.
So, yeah.
Then Will Greer. I'm sorry. I thought Tua was entering the draft.
No, he's one more year.
That's it. I swear I thought I heard somewhere that Tua was entering the draft.
I
But
had it between
Will Greer would be my pick there
Of
if
course,
the Redskins don't pick
He
him.
did go to school in Florida for a year at Florida University, but I could also see a guy like Jared Stidham from Auburn going there as well. That's my pick for Miami, is that they need a quarterback. Ryan Fitzpatrick has been around the league, and they need somebody. He's going to be technically their starter right now, but they need somebody to lead the offense, because Ryan Tannehill, to me, was a bust. He was not that good of a quarterback for them, especially under Adam Gase, who was a offensive-minded coordinator and head coach. He was not that good of a quarterback to me, and I think they need to go quarterback in the first round.
They need help everywhere.
Oh yeah, it's not just
so
quarterback.
you know it's
Little
it'll
bit
be
of
interesting
everything.
to see what they pick up, who they believe is the number one overall player on their board. It could be a toss up. We could be throwing out names and they could be going, like somewhere out of we don't even know. So it'll be interesting to see what the Dolphins do.
Like, people want to say that the Patriots have it easy in this division. That's not their fault. Like, the Dolphins have not been a good franchise for a long time. They haven't. And it's because of the way that they have their players, and the Patriots are finding ways to use those players. Wes Welker is a perfect example of that. Tom Brady is a perfect example of finding these types of players. Speaking of the Patriots, let's go to the Patriots. They have the number 32 overall pick.
And I have one position for them.
Okay.
Quarterback.
What?
Listen.
Are you?
Listen. Because I can agree with him to a certain extent.
I think they go not like their first. I think they go late.
Dropped a bombshell.
Snag a quarterback, depending upon who they feel could be a potential. Jimmy Garoppolo. They've done it before. They'll do it again.
This is what I've been saying for a long time, is that Jimmy Garoppolo is an FCS guy, and he was able to succeed underneath Tom Brady. I think they will take Easton Stick out of North Dakota State because the kid is a winner. The kid has 4 national championships, and he is a very successful quarterback. And I feel like he is a perfect representation of a guy who can learn under a good quarterback, because he was teammates with Carson Wentz. And Carson Wentz went to the NFL. Easton Stick took over, and look what happened. And I believe that in the 5th round or the 4th round, they could absolutely take a quarterback in that late of the draft. I really do believe that they would.
If I'd say their pressing need, maybe wide receiver.
Yes.
Who's coming back? I don't really know. I mean, even with the signing,
Hogan is gone now.
who did they just sign? I forget who they just signed recently, but they did sign a receiver. But I think wide receiver, could be a potential first round, second round focus for them. But don't be surprised if they take a quarterback.
Yes.
Well, where I was going with this before he said quarterback, and I could see that late, but Tom Brady still has a lot in the tank. I mean,
Here's the thing, though, is that I think they need to get a big name wide receiver, though, first.
but here's the thing: they just won the Super Bowl, so some of the guys left, but Gronk just retired. So what about tight end here?
Well, of course, you have to look at the tight end position, but I think the big thing for me is that they need a big name wide receiver. For me personally, that's just me, because you're never going to be able to replace Gronk. No matter who you find, you're not going to be able to replace a guy like him.
But you need a tight end since Gronk's gone.
Absolutely. But I think at least finding a big wide receiver. I'm not talking like a big name. I'm talking like a big, tall wide receiver who can at least help out, because you're going to have Edelman back. You're going to have Mo Harris now. I feel like the kid from Iowa State, Akeem Butler, is the perfect example. He's 6'5" out of Iowa State, and he is a perfect prototypical outside wide receiver. I feel like he's the perfect player for him.
Well, if whoever the Patriots pick, they're still going to be good because they know how to work players.
Mm-hmm.
So, Super Bowl champions, not a lot, but they're going to draft somebody and they're going to still be good.
Yep. Now, finally in the AFC East is the Jets, the Jets, Jets. And we said that they're the number 3 overall pick. And did you guys pick Nick Bosa for
It's
the
definitely
Jets?
a toss-up. Whoever the 49ers take at 2,
It'll be back to back.
It'll be back-to-back. It'll either be Quinnen Williams or it'll either be Nick Bosa.
I feel like they need to go Josh Allen, though. For me personally, I think they need an edge rusher like him for them.
It'll definitely be interesting to see. It's definitely one of those top 5 prospects.
You can't
without a
narrow
doubt.
it down because in the top 5, like I said, there's so much controversy. You could go one way or another
Right.
for all these teams because they're not in need of a quarterback, especially with Sam Darnold now and Adam Gase being in there. But, yeah, I really think that they need to bolster their defense even just a little bit more now that with the acquisition of Le'Veon Bell in the offense, just get some more guys on your defense to help out, I feel.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they go wide receiver because they picked up Jamison Crowder from Washington, and he hasn't really done a lot for Washington the past couple of years. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they picked up a wide receiver in the draft to help just in case Jamison Crowder isn't living up to his potential in the trade or signing. So another guy there. And like you said, the defensive guys, definitely. Mm-hmm. The Jets need a lot of working with Adam Gase as their new head coach. It's going to be an interesting season for him.
Mm-hmm. So now we're going to move on to the AFC South, starting with the Colts. And to me, I feel like the Colts are in a great position right now. We saw their cap space at the end of this past season. They are the number 1 team in cap space. They have a lot of money to give away to teams. They are going to have the number 26 overall pick. I feel like you get another wide receiver for Andrew Luck. I feel like you go out there and you find another wide receiver for him.
Find a weapon.
Another weapon, absolutely.
Yeah, a big weapon. Somebody huge.
Because T.Y. Hilton is fantastic for them, no question. Yeah. And now you have Eric Ebron with them. You saw what they were able to do. I feel like you need to go wide receiver here for Andrew Luck, no question. And then moving on to the Jaguars. Oh, boy.
They need a lot of work. I mean, I couldn't even list out all the team needs they needed because they need a lot of work. And we've said this during the season, CJ. What's up with them? Like, they're just an average team, and they need. I hope Tom Coughlin can turn them around this season somehow with these draft picks. Who they're gonna pick up, but it's just too much to say who they're gonna want to pick up in the first round. Because there's so many team needs that they need.
This is a perfect team that I think that Ed Oliver could go to from Houston. He is a very aggressive guy, and this is a very aggressive defense. And I feel like they need to just – I know on the offensive side of the ball, they really need to gain some playmakers because now TJ Yeldon is gone. Their backup quarterback, he is gone. Their backup running back, he's gone. But with the quarterback now of Nick Foles, they could at least have some firepower because he is a good quarterback. And I think they need to bolster their defense a little bit more because Dante Fowler's gone. Their defense is also losing some key people, of course. Tyshawn Gibson is no longer there. You may have, and it looks like Jalen Ramsey might be sitting out for a while. So you're going to need some defensive playmakers right now for that team. But Josh is right. It's not just one position. They need a lot
everywhere.
of people. They need a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then the Texans. So they have the number 23rd overall pick. Honestly, here's the thing about the Texans. I feel like the Texans are in a predicament where if you could stay healthy, you would be fine. But you need an offensive line around Deshaun
definitely.
Watson.
I was saying that as well.
I was thinking the same thing.
Deshaun Watson's been pressured a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They need to pick up some O-line. And, just like the Vikings, they need O-line. The Texans need O-line. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans moved up to an earlier spot to get O-line.
Exactly. Deshaun Watson is a great talent. He's a Heisman Trophy and a national championship winning quarterback. And he has displayed time and time again why he belongs in the NFL. And I feel like they just need to bolster the offensive line. They have arguably the best receiver in the NFL, DeAndre Hopkins. They have a great running game with Lamar Miller. They just need to bolster the offensive line, in my opinion. They're one of those teams where if you just bolster one or two positions, you could get over the hump. You really could. Because their defense is fine. It really is.
I completely agree. I think offensive line is the way to go, but defensively, I don't really see any major need, along the defense. I mean, granted, you can create depth, but you got to protect your franchise quarterback, hands down.
Yeah, the only other thing that I would say is that Tyrann Mathieu is gone, and he's gone to Kansas City. That would be the only other considerable loss that the Texans have. But yes, offensive line, protect your franchise quarterback because he showed that he was almost the comeback player of the year this year. So I feel like they need to show up with the offensive line. And then finally, the Texans. And the Texans are in a predicament now. I mean, the Titans, excuse me. The Titans, excuse me. Gone through a lot of teams, a lot of positions.
I'm like, are we good here?
No, the Titans. And they're in a predicament now where they could be drafting a quarterback. They really could. And
Marcus Mariota injured, and Blaine Gabbert beating the Redskins, and the Redskins getting knocked out of the playoffs. But Blaine Gabbert, I mean, I've barely seen him play. How do we know if he's good anymore? But he got the job done against Washington. That says a whole lot. But anyways, not first round quarterback, but maybe just in case Marcus Mariota isn't the same after that injury, quarterback.
I feel like they also need another wide receiver for Mariota.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with that.
I really do think that there's no big name wide receiver other than Corey Davis for them. They do have Delaney Walker as their tight end, who is a very reliable tight end, but they need a big name wide receiver who can at least be a downfield target for Marcus Mariota because Rashard Matthews is not coming back. So they need somebody else on the air attack to help them out. Because Derrick Henry, they're good at the running back position right now. They are. So, in their defense, they have a defensive coach in Mike Vrabel, who I think is a great coach for them right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike Vrabel, I feel like he can transform this team in the next couple of years.
They were this close to going to the playoffs.
One game.
They just needed to beat the Colts. That's all they needed to do, and they were that short. So, finally, the last division is the is the AFC West.
Quarterback.
With the Denver Broncos, and by God, they need a quarterback to me. Joe Flacco is not the answer.
He's not the answer? Come on now.
I don't think that. Come on, as a Pittsburgh fan,
I
you should
know
this.
I
Come
know.
on now. But, I don't think that he's the answer. I really don't.
He's
seen better days.
He has. I was shocked with that trade. I'm going to be honest with you. When John Elway made that trade, thinking that he's the answer, I'm speechless still.
Yeah, no, still.
I was surprised Elway didn't decide to come back.
But yeah, I really do think that they need to go quarterback or at least a linebacker position because now Brandon Marshall is gone for their starting middle linebacker. But I think they need to go quarterback in the first round. At least find somebody who is worth, and it could be Tyree Jackson out of Buffalo. It could be Will Grier still, or it might be Daniel Jones out of Duke. For some reason, Daniel Jones out of Duke is higher than Will Grier on the draft board, and I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't really understand. They're saying the Redskins are going to trade up to get him, but I don't think so.
So yeah,
I want the Redskins to stay put and get Will Grier.
So I really think that the Broncos need to find some help at their quarterback position because we saw last year Vance Joseph did not give Case Keenum any help. And they have weapons at the offensive side of the ball. Cortland Sutton out of SMU was a great target. You have Emmanuel Sanders, who is still a great target. Philip Lindsay is a great running back for them. You just need to get a quarterback who is reliable. And I feel that that'll bring them to a better season. And I really do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And
Joe
then-
Flacco's going downhill on his career.
Ever since his Super Bowl season, I really think that he has seen better days.
Yeah, like how much more of Joe Flacco are we going to see in the NFL?
Now moving on to the Chargers, and here's another controversial team that could possibly draft a quarterback. Not in the first round. I don't think that they would draft a quarterback in the first round. Honestly, I feel that they need some help in the defensive line. It says here wide receiver, but they have great wide receivers in Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. They have, of course, Hunter Henry as their tight end. Of course, he has to stay healthy, though. Antonio Gaines had to come back off his couch to basically play for them. So I think that they need to go defensive line here. And right now they have the 28th pick in the NFL draft. So they're dropping all the way down here to the bottom of the first round.
Again, they could have some suitor, make them an offer. They
couldn't refuse, yeah.
Could fall back and get some picks, depending upon, what they think out there in LA, what they feel like they need to do.
Because the defensive line in this draft, I feel has
so
some
deep.
ridiculous
It's
players
so
on
deep.
there. Yes.
This year it's so deep.
From edge to interior defensive line is ridiculous to me. And, yeah, I absolutely think that the Chargers need to go defensive line. And then they need to go offensive line. Just protect Phillip Rivers a little bit more. But later in the draft, I think it's time to draft another quarterback.
Yeah, because just like the Broncos, how much longer does Phillip Rivers have in the tank
Exactly.
in his career? He's still pretty good, don't get me wrong, but how much more does he have?
And now the Chiefs. Defense. You need defense. You finished 31st in the NFL in defense last year.
I dreamt that you were saying that during our draft
Stay
special.
on side.
Yeah, just stay on
Stay
side.
on side.
The whole reason that your season almost fell apart to begin with is because of your defense.
On side.
all you had to
New
do.
England wouldn't be in the Super Bowl if the Chiefs stayed on side.
And once again, your offense was second in the NFL this past season. Excuse me. Were they second in the NFL? No, they were number one. They were the number one offense, averaging 35 points a game. But they were the number 31st defense on the other side. So they need to stick to the defensive side of the ball. They got playmakers after playmakers on the offensive side. And right now, the problem, though, for the Chiefs is that if they're going to be drafting defensive players, they have the 29th pick in the draft. And like you said, make them an offer they can't refuse. But this late into the draft, I would take an offer you can't refuse because you're not going to find probably an Ed Oliver. You're not going to find another Nick Bosa. He'll be gone by then. But you're not going to find these edge rushers. You're not going to find – honestly, you need a defensive back because your pass defense was the worst.
Could this be the spot where Dexter Lawrence falls to?
Honestly, yes, I could see it.
It could be.
Yes.
So that could be something to watch, come Thursday.
Yeah. And so, yeah, the Chiefs' defense. You don't need offense. You've already proven that last year that you didn't need your offense. And then finally, the last team
Here we go.
is the Oakland Raiders. needs edge, quarterback, running back, linebacker, quarterback, tight end, wide receiver, and interior offensive line.
This team gives me a headache.
The Oakland Raiders and John Gruden, Mike Mayock have sent their scouts home. The scouts are not coming back for the NFL draft either. Mike Mayock and John Gruden has sent their scouts home because they do not trust them. You are 3 days away from the NFL draft, and this is now coming out.
Mike Mayock just wants to work his magic and prove that he's better than everybody on NFL Network because he was a draft analyst.
Oh, yes, and I very much enjoyed Mike Mayock better than Mel Kiper, but the Raiders, I mean, they won the first round because they have 3 first-round picks. You have the 4th, you have the 24th, and then you have the 27th. So you could fill 3 of your needs right there. Don't
Hear me out.
Okay.
Do they package them and move up to that number 1 spot? Because it is the Oakland Raiders we're talking about here. I've seen crazier things.
I could see that.
But this is the Oakland
For
Raiders.
Kyler Murray?
I did not say Kyler
Okay,
Murray.
then for who? But
I would not be shocked if something preposterous.
that's what I'm asking, though, is that would you really see
Crazy.
them do it for a player like Kyler Murray?
I do not see that.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, do not be surprised.
What if they go up and get somebody else, number 1 overall?
But still, that's 3.
Yeah, but three picks for one guy?
But I'm
the
just telling-
Redskins did it
I'm
for
just telling you,
RG3.
I would not be surprised. The
The
Raiders are going to do something crazy on draft night.
Just like the Redskins on draft night to get RG3. They gave the Rams a lot of stuff, a lot of picks to draft, like, what was it, number 2 for RG3?
Well, I mean, you did.
Anything can happen in this draft. You know, you see trades back and forth. I mean, that's the great part about the draft because you hear the da-da-da-da-da-da or whatever, and then, oh, you got a trade here and whatnot, and Roger Goodell on the horn. The Oakland Raiders have traded the 5th overall or whatever pick to the blank and blank such and such team. You know, that's the best part of the draft, in my opinion, the suspense and the surprise.
But here's the thing is that your team was 26th in total offense last year and 23rd in total offense and 26th in total defense. And you have an opportunity to get 3 first-round draft picks here to bolster your team. And you're saying that they should trade up all those picks?
I'm not
to
saying
the
that.
number-
I would say don't be surprised.
No,
I mean,
I'm
throw
not
my
saying
remote
that.
at the TV.
They traded Khalil Mack.
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
They
Khalil
traded
Mack.
John
Amari
Gruden didn't
Cooper.
want anything to deal with him, and look what happened.
They made the Bears so much better overnight. They
Yes.
made the Dallas Cowboys so much better
The
overnight.
Cooper trade, yes.
What? It is the Oakland Raiders.
Crazy moves, so you never know. I totally agree with Vigna right here.
Viggins. Is like
Yeah,
fig
sorry. I was thinking of his Twitter handle, and it's been a long day.
That is a very, very strange accusation
Don't
coming out
be
from Oakland.
surprised.
They
if
will become the
something
new Cleveland
crazy-
Browns if they do this.
Do not be surprised if something crazy happens.
Well, that is all the teams, and that is all their necessities.
And
we-
now, Vigna had a segment on the dark horses of the NFL draft, didn't you?
I was just Hunter Renfro. Don't be surprised. I think he can go somewhere. The quarterback from Buffalo, Tyreek Jackson. I think he has a cannon arm.
Yes, he does.
Big guy. It'll be interesting to see where he goes.
He needs to be developed a little bit more, but yes.
Yes. And then we haven't talked a lot about running backs.
Yes.
You know, where will they go? Will we see another draft where there's no first round running backs taken? You know, does someone fall in love with Josh Jacobs? You know, does someone fall in love with Devin Singletary? You know, it'll be interesting to see some of these dark horse players where they end up. Guys that were big name stars in college.
Another one is Bryce Love. he was a big name in
right?
college
He was,
too.
so it'll be interesting to see where they fall, this weekend. Their lives will be changed forever.
Yep.
I have another question for you all. The James Conner Comeback Player of the Year, George Aston, Stephen City, Virginia. Yep, right here where we live. That's why I want to talk about him. Will he get drafted in this NFL draft? And you're a Pitt native. You like Pitt, so you follow them. So.
I do love Pitt. I really do.
It depends on the team, though.
Right.
That's the only thing is that not a lot of teams run a fullback formation.
Right. I think George is a very interesting player, though, where he could play the H-back spot. He could play special teams. It's got to be – it takes one team. I personally, New England Patriots, would love to see him go there.
You really think that he could follow up behind James Devlin, though?
I was really thinking that, but I wasn't sure.
Bill Belichick is a mastermind.
Yeah, he is.
I would love to see him go to stay across the hall with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
Roosevelt Nix, good. George Aston is a Pittsburgh Steeler through and through.
I hope so, because we saw that with Connor. They drafted James Conner, who's a Panther.
But truly, I hope that he doesn't go drafted and he can finally choose to where he wants to go. So it'll be interesting to see, who's going to pull the trigger on, Sharando's own, Mr. George Aston.
He wasn't that good anyway. I just wanted to see your face. It's okay. Yeah, I know he was good.
Yeah, but Sharando's very own from our hometown, so we had to bring him up. So whatever happens, George, we hope you make it to the NFL one way or another, or the other. We will be rooting for you, buddy.
That's it, Josh. We went through everybody.
Wow, this was by far the best. CJ Mentier, our wonderful co-creator, co-host, whatever. Yeah, he's a great addition to the podcast. Thankful for him each and every week. Thank you for leading, because the NFL draft isn't my strong suit. I was struggling studying some of this stuff, and after working all day, I didn't realize
it takes a lot of in-depth analysis. You have to be able to put yourself in college football a lot more than just the NFL.
Mike Mayock, I wonder how much stress he got put through on a day-to-day basis during draft season when he was with NFL Network.
But he was getting paid to do it, though.
Yeah.
Paid a lot of money to do it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, but gentlemen, any last words for the podcast today?
No, it was fun. My voice really hurts right now.
Thanks for having me on, Josh. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Hope to see you back on soon. We'd love to have you for some other topics, but that's it. The Josh Kirby on Sports podcast, part of the Mayo Please Podcast Network, sponsored by Route 11 Chips. Make sure you check them out. Martin's Food Lion and Giant. Thank you to Mild Swagger, Cosmo, PremiumBeat.com for our music. Dave Johnson for our intro. As always, make sure you check us. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're also on YouTube. Make sure you find the Mayo Please Podcast. We're on SoundCloud. They're on Spotify. They're on Google Play, I believe, now. And their main source of social media is Twitter. And make sure you email us if you want your question aired on the podcast, kirbyonsports@gmail.com. Social media, just search the Josh Kirby on Sports podcast. I'm sure you'll find us. But till next time, Josh Vigna, CJ Mentier, I'm Josh Kirby signing off till next week. We say so long and peace out.